welcome to Bob's this morning. And appreciate your efforts to come out on probably your day off from work for some people, to get up early and come here and meditate and listen to the Dhamma. And so this is my last few hours actually in Malaysia. I'm flying off to Thailand this afternoon. So I've been in Malaysia for almost 2 weeks, and appreciated how well I've been looked after, and all the kindness and generosity and thoughtfulness of the people here. And so maybe I'll come again. And I'm from a monastery in England, Chithurst Buddhist monastery, which was actually the first overseas monastery established from Ajahn Chah's tradition in Thailand. So Chithurst monastery is now 45 years old now. 45, yeah. And England, like Malaysia, in theory, a Buddhist country. But the interest in Buddhism is growing, and Buddhism has actually a good reputation in England. In terms of, I think a lot of it's owing to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who continues to be an example of and teach about non-harming and compassion, in view of the conflict in Tibet. So we heard a comment, Buddhism's a peaceful religion, and the reputation that you can't really, if you really follow the Buddha's teachings, you can't really harm living beings. You can't kill people. Yeah, you can't justify a war in the Buddha's teachings. But a sort of something that happened in the monastery several years ago, really, said to me that something, about Buddhism is becoming more appreciated. Because several years ago, when Theresa May was the Prime Minister, a Wesak in May, the monastery received a letter from Theresa May, and wishing us a happy Wesak, and expressing appreciation for what Buddhism was offering to the society in terms of its teaching about virtue and its teachings on mindfulness and meditation. So those are things that she mentioned in her letter, that Buddhism was contributing to the society, and expressing her appreciation for that. We didn't get a similar letter from Boris Johnson, but from Theresa May. And so in England now, there's a problem in England now with mental illness. Big problem, and especially amongst young people now. And so this word mindfulness is becoming very popular in England, because they see it as a way to help deal with the mental problems that people are having in England, all ages. So you hear about the teaching mindfulness in schools, mindfulness in universities, mindfulness in hospitals, mindfulness in Parliament even, and even mindfulness in Buckingham Palace. Yeah. You hear people doing these sort of mindfulness courses. Because they see that there's some need now for something to help manage the mental illnesses that people have. So it's something to, in developed countries, we developed all this technology, didn't we? And we thought this would solve all our problems, didn't we? You know, if you could just get what you want when you want it, that should be it, shouldn't it? You know, if you want to watch a movie, oh, it's there. If you want to listen to some music, it's there. Yeah. Everything is there on these screens, isn't it now? A touch of a button. Yeah. Maybe people thought that would be the key to happiness, getting what you want when you want it. Yeah. Okay. Also, maybe accumulation of material wealth, things like this, having nice cars, nice houses, you know, the best of what the material world can offer. So, you know, people today, they have all these things available, but it hasn't really worked out as they thought. Instead of making people more happy, there's more mental illness. This is what really in line with the Buddha's teachings. You know, if one just lives one life, just stimulating the mind with the senses, eventually it doesn't do any good. Just continually stimulating your mind with sights and sounds, taste, touch, you know, with the sensory world, you know. It's, in the long run, it's not good for the mind. Right? Yeah? You see, on a physical level, say, if you just ate ice cream and chocolate all the time, nothing else, you might enjoy it, the taste of it, but in the long run, you wouldn't have a healthy body, would you? If you just ate ice cream and chocolate all the time and nothing else. Yeah? Eventually, you won't have good health. So I think similar with the mind. If we just constantly, the stimulation and for the young people, eventually it has effects on the mental health. The strength of the mind to deal with challenges. The mind becomes weak and easily overwhelmed by things. So, in Buddha's teachings, the importance of looking after the mind, being more aware of how things affect the mind. It's like, you see, like the mind is like a garden. And if you want to have a beautiful garden, you've got to know about the good things in there that you want to cultivate, the nice flowers, you know. And you've got to know what the weeds are too, haven't you? Because you want to take the weeds out, or else they'll just smother the beauty of the garden. So, first thing is to know, isn't it? Know what you want to cultivate in there, and know what you want to take out. Yeah? And then you have to make the effort to dig it out, don't you? It's not going to magically disappear. You have to do something to take out the weeds. So let's go with the mind. You know, knowing on the level of the mind, what sort of ways of contemplating, what ways of thinking, what ways of doing helps us to grow good things, and what things lead to more decline of good things. Yeah. And the Buddha, his teachings very much, gives us lots of guidelines about this, of what to cultivate and what to abandon, and emphasizing the importance of meditation, and developing this inner awareness. Because if we're not really internally aware, we'll never know what's in the garden. Yeah? We won't understand what we need to cultivate and what we need to abandon. Yeah? So we have to first be aware of the mind. Yeah? So this is where why they're teaching mindfulness in England now, to help people develop a little more awareness about the mind. Because if we're not aware of something, then these things can like take over the mind. Like the analogy in the sutra is like a creeper going up a tree. When it first starts, it seems quite harmless, but if you don't do anything about it, eventually it'll smother the tree. And that's like mental habits. They start just thinking a little bit about this, but then we give it more momentum, we give it more power, and eventually it becomes a habit that takes us over. So the importance to be more aware of some of these mental habits so they don't sort of take over the mind, yeah. So one of the big problems you hear about is just like anxiety and worries that people have now. In terms of economies, global warming, wars, things, all these sort of things that people get quite anxious about. And anxiety is becoming a problem. If people don't address it in some way, then it just takes over the mind. The habit just takes over if you're not aware of it. But an interesting comment from one lady who did this mindfulness course. She said she did this mindfulness course, but it didn't get rid of her anxiety. But she realized she was bigger than the anxiety. So that means now there's more awareness of it. When you're more mindful of these things, that awareness of it is a very important thing, because that means you're not totally taken over by it. Yeah? If you're aware of something, it means you're not totally taken over by it. And that's such an important quality to develop, that awareness of the mind, because that'll really help in terms of, the things won't overwhelm the mind if we develop awareness of it. So one of the Ajahn Chah analogies that I was shared on the retreat I just did about the monkey mind, and in this particular teaching, Ajahn Chah said that you can't expect the mind just to stop and be quiet. You have to learn to observe the mind, to be aware of the mind, aware of the thoughts. It's just like aware of the thoughts can be like a monkey. And if you understand the way the monkey is, then the monkey isn't suffering anymore. But if you don't understand the monkey, then we can suffer from it. And Ajahn Chah said, by understanding the monkey, you don't become the monkey. By being aware of the monkey, you're not the monkey anymore. So this is it. Being aware is quite different from being. Being the anxiety, being the say unwholesome mind state. When we say we're just aware of it, and this is what we cultivate through meditation. The ability to be aware. We can stand back and observe these mind states. And then we have an opportunity then, when we're aware of these mind states, to reflect on them more skillfully in the light of the Buddha's teachings. If we are overwhelmed by the mind state, then we just get caught into habitual thoughts, which tend just to keep the mind state going. The habitual thoughts, patterns that we develop. But when we can develop, be aware of certain mind states, and then reflect more skillfully, then they don't take over the mind, and actually this facilitates the ability to let go. And this is the skill of looking after the heart and mind. one of the stories from my own experience I like to share. After my 5th Vassa as a monk, I was sent to New Zealand to support Luang Por, who's coming here next month, yeah? And he was the abbot there, so I went to support him. And usually, between before your 10 Vassas as a monk, you don't have to give talks. They give you that sort of time just to learn and practice. You don't have to give teachings. Until after 10 years, you become like an Acharya and Ajahn. And then, if you want to, you can offer teachings, yeah? So I went to New Zealand, I wasn't any experienced in giving talks and teaching. But there came an occasion where we were invited by the local church to give a talk at a flower festival. And Luang Por was quite keen on just public relationships and keeping good friendship with the local, community, the local Christians and things, which is good, yeah. But he couldn't go. So he asked me to go. So I said, oh, okay. Yeah, and so the night before, I was, feeling, just having a peaceful evening at the monastery, evening meditation. So I go back to my hut after the evening puja meditation, and the thought comes, what should I say tomorrow at the church? Should I say this? Should I say that? Maybe this, or maybe that. So I started trying to think about what to say at the church the next day. And this went on for about an hour, maybe. And then I realized the mind's just going around in circles, the same old themes coming and going. But then the realization, the mind's caught up in anxiety. Anxiety about giving this talk at the church. One of the biggest fears, they say, about public speaking is like fear and anxiety around it, yeah? And being aware of that, and I also realized the more I tried to figure out what I wanted to say, the more anxious I was getting. So the thoughts were good. But through awareness, I realized that planning the talk now was actually feeding the anxiety. Yeah? The anxiety was just getting more intense the more I tried to figure out the talk. So, being aware of that, then the sense of, right, I've got to stop planning the talk now. Let's not think about what I'm going to say tomorrow. I've got to address the anxiety now. And I found just like going to the breath, getting away from the thoughts, to go into the breath was, it had so much momentum that the thinking was, quite, a lot of quite strong, So I realized I had to use some contemplation as well to replace the anxious thoughts with a skillful thought. So what I did, with the breath, I used this reflection. Yeah, may I be well, may I be free from anxiety, yeah? And then breathing out with a thought, may all beings be well and free from anxiety. So I try to use this thought with the breath, right? Now the way it works, when you first start to do it, the mind's got some momentum for figuring out the talk, so the mind's going to the talk again, you say, oh, come back, may I be well, may all beings be well, it goes off again to plan the talk, come back again, because the anxiety is still there to some extent. But making that determination just to stay with the breath and that contemplation, eventually you disempower the anxiety and you empower more the mindful reflection and mindfulness of the breath. So maybe it took a little while, but eventually the mind stayed more with the breath and the contemplation rather than going planning the talk. And eventually the anxiety level lessened and lessened and lessened, and then it went. Which was good, because then I could get a good night's sleep before I had to give the talk the next day. Yeah. So this is the importance of mindfulness, awareness, learning to be aware of mind states, and then how to really contemplate in a way that helps us to let them go. If we're not aware of them, they take us over and we get caught into the thoughts that just keep them going, even though they might be good thoughts. I wasn't thinking any bad thoughts, I was just planning a talk. So this is the importance to know that. The sort of ways of contemplating that help us to let go of things, or just keep certain habits going. Yeah? And this is what we learn through awareness. So this is why the Buddha teaches about mindfulness, about spending more time looking inward, being aware of the mind. Such an important thing. But these days, there's so much to take us out, isn't there? Yeah. So I was just saying that, when I was in Singapore, I had the pleasure of going on the MRT. Somebody took me out for a little walk and he took me on the MRT. And I'm in doing this crowded carriage, and everybody's looking at their phones, Everybody's, everybody's looking, nobody's sort of looking inward, It's always, that's it now, life is all about out there, isn't it? Out there. And not really knowing the heart, not knowing the mind, and the effects of these things on the mind, really. So this is why there are problems now, because people are not developing the skill and the awareness to look after their mind, to look after their hearts. Maybe, full on out there to make wealth and things which you think will bring us happiness, but not looking after the heart. So you can be wealthy on the outside but poor on the inside. If you don't really look after the heart. But if you look after the heart, then you can develop your inner wealth. And then it maybe doesn't matter so much what you have on the outside, because you have this inner wealth. Yeah. So this is the sort of real wealth the Buddha encouraged us to cultivate. Actually, the Buddha said contentment actually is the greatest wealth. A lot of people out there, a lot of wealth but no contentment in their life. Just needing more, wanting more. So, in terms of spiritual wealth, you all have some wealth here, because, the things that the Buddha said are great treasures are faith. The fact you've come here today means you have the treasure of faith. Come here to listen to Dhamma talks and to do some practice. It means you have the treasure of faith. You come here to make offerings, so you have the treasure of generosity. These are what the Buddha said, real treasures. You come here to listen to the Dhamma. That the Buddha said, listening to Dhamma Sutta is also a treasure. And the last treasure is wisdom. If you develop some wisdom in life, then that becomes a real treasure. And that stems from first listening, doesn't it? First listening to Dhamma. And then reflecting on it. Reflecting on what you've heard. Because if you just listen to it, but you don't reflect on it, then it quickly goes. They had an advantage in the time of the Buddha, that you didn't have books then. So what you heard, you had to really remember, because there was nothing you couldn't read about it later. You really had to listen carefully and remember what was said if you wanted to find it helpful. You couldn't just look it up in a book. So people used to really listen. And that's why after the Buddha gave, the 4 of this and the 5 of that, because it would help people to remember these teachings. So you could bring them up and reflect on them. So the importance of just cultivating our life, wise reflection. And it's sort of our chance. There's this, at the end it says, this shall be reflected upon again and again. Really to bring these teachings just maybe from an intellectual level, but down to the level of the heart. When these teachings are more in the level of the heart, they'll come up when you need them. If they're not on the level of the heart, on that deeper level, then easily to forget. So we get caught into old habits and old reactions to situations, to things, to people. But if it's on a deeper level, then we find we don't get caught up in the reactions so much. We can manifest things skillful in certain situations. Yeah. We can remember the Dhamma when we need to remember it, in effect. We don't forget it, the teachings that we've heard. And the more we do reflect skillfully, then this will have a good effect on the quality of mind, and will promote the arising of more wholesome and peaceful mind states. And these qualities of like contentment, kindness, compassion, the wise reflection and awareness, mindfulness and wisdom. They promote these wholesome qualities of mind. So, if we cultivate these treasures, then these are things that will support us in our life. And at the end of our life, these are the things that really will matter. What we've accumulated on a material level, it doesn't help in the last days of our life. But what we've cultivated on the level of the heart, this is what will really benefit us. And an analogy I've been sharing with people, and I've been asking this question too, I asked the people, what would you do if you heard there was a tsunami coming? What would you do? Say, okay, this is it, this is the end. What would you do? And what I'd do if I knew there was a tsunami coming, I'd go to a high place. Yeah. But that would take effort, wouldn't it? Struggling up to go to a high place, the effort, physical effort, tired, gotta keep going up the hill to the high place. But when you get there, you'll be safe. So this is the idea of refuge, isn't it? And we take these refuges in Buddhism, don't we? We have Buddhang Savanangachami, Dhammang Savanangachami. And the Buddha refuge is having mindfulness and wisdom. This awareness, this wise, awakened awareness is the Buddha refuge. It's a higher place from which we can observe the mind and body and understand the mind and body in the light of truth. Now, if we don't understand the mind and body, we'll very much identify with it as what we are, then of course the idea of death is scary, because those things that we identify with are going to stop. But if we come to a higher place of mindfulness and wisdom, where we see into the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the not-self of mind and body, if we realize that, then when these things are going to pass away, it's not a problem. So it wasn't a problem for the Buddha, It's not a problem for the enlightened masters. But also just having that refuge, even if we're not an enlightened being yet, we have that quality of faith and trust. We have that quality of faith and trust, saying the law of karma. We realize, I've lived a good life. I've learned some valuable things. I've practiced generosity. I've practiced virtue. I've lived a good life. And that faith in, the Buddha said, the law of karma, if you live a good life, you go on to good things. So there's that trust as well that will come. Even though we realize it's not our last birth yet, that trust in our good karma, the trust we have from our developments of, the Buddhist path. So these are the things that are the treasure of faith at the end of our life, if we have that strong faith in the Buddha's teachings. So the importance of, and I say the importance of cultivating these things while we have the opportunity. Many people in the world don't have the opportunities that we have in terms of, we can practice generosity. There's no pressure on us to do bad things. Nobody's forcing us to kill other people or steal from other people or forcing us to say unnice things about other people. Yeah. Nobody's forcing us to take alcohol. So we can live by the precepts, yeah. And then we have opportunities to spend time meditation and developing this inner awareness and this refuge in awareness in the Buddha, cultivating this inner Buddha. So these become real treasures, yeah? And we have the opportunity to cultivate these treasures. So my encouragement would be, make the most of it while you have these opportunities. Yeah? Really fortify that connection with the triple gem. And then that'll always keep you on a good track through the realms of samsara. You always gravitate towards wholesome things, good things, because of that connection you have with wholesomeness. So I have to go very soon, so I just like to offer these reflections for you to reflect on. And I think like the Buddha would say, if anything's been useful, please, reflect on it. If it's not been useful, then don't worry about it. These are often thoughts for reflection, and whatever's been useful, fine. Whatever, not been useful, fine too. But just want to offer some encouragement today.